Here's the core of the story. According to reports from Reuters, The Guardian, and others, the U.S. has agreed to a one-year exemption for Hungary from U.S. sanctions aimed at Russian oil and gas imports. Hungary is heavily reliant on Russian oil and gas, about 86% of its oil and 74% of its gas in 2024. During a meeting in Washington, Trump acknowledged that Hungary has no coast/ports and so faces unique energy logistics challenges. In return, Hungary has committed to certain U.S. energy purchases, such as liquefied natural gas contracts valued around $600 million.
So why is Hungary in this position, and why might the U.S. be willing to grant an exemption? Let's explore factors. 1. Geography and logistics. Hungary is landlocked, lacks a coastline and seaports, making alternative energy imports more challenging. Trump pointed this out explicitly. 2. Energy infrastructure. The refineries and pipelines in Hungary are built for Russian-origin crude. The transition away from Russian supply is harder and costlier. 3. Political relationship. Hungary's leader, Viktor Orban, has cultivated a personal rapport with Trump, and the meeting emphasized bilateral ties and mutual respect. 4. U.S. strategic interests. By offering an exemption with conditions like LNG purchases, the U.S. may strengthen its energy export profile and strategic influence in Central/Eastern Europe.
Now let's dig into what's at stake for Hungary, for the U.S., and for the broader dynamics with Russia and Europe. For Hungary, the exemption prevents immediate energy supply shock in a country where a cutoff could trigger GDP losses. It gives Hungary political relief domestically, important ahead of its 2026 election. But it also ties Hungary closer to the U.S. for LNG and nuclear fuel purchases. For the U.S. reinforces its role as an energy supplier and strategic partner in Europe. The exemption shows flexibility in sanction policy, which could be a signal to other countries. But it may raise questions about consistency of U.S. sanction enforcement and its messaging toward Russia. For Europe and Russia and geopolitics, this move may weaken the collective European effort to reduce Russian energy dependence. The European Union has been pushing to phase out Russian gas and oil by end of 2027. Hungary bucking that puts strain on the bloc. Russia benefits from continued cash flow and influence in Hungary. It may prompt other nations to seek carve-outs or demand special treatment.
No policy move is without risks. Let's outline the criticisms and possible downsides. Sanction integrity concern. If one country gets an exemption, others may ask for similar. It may weaken the deterrent effect of sanctions. Europe solidarity. Some EU members and NATO partners may see this as undermining the joint stance against Russia's war in Ukraine. Reports note that Hungary remains heavily reliant on Russian fuel and has been criticized for its stance. Russia leverage. Continued energy ties give Russia leverage and potentially funds that help the Kremlin's war machine. Domestic backlash. In the U.S., critics might argue that granting exemptions contradicts the message of penalizing Russian aggression. Long-term transition issues. While this may give short-term relief, Hungary still faces the challenge of shifting its energy infrastructure away from Russia, a costly, time-consuming process.
Let's wrap by looking forward. What will we want to keep an eye on in the coming months? Duration of exemption. It's reported to be 1 year. How will the U.S. and Hungary negotiate after that? Hungary's energy deals. Will Hungary follow through on U.S. LNG nuclear fuel purchases? How much of its Russian supply will it reduce? Europe response. Will the EU respond to this exception by adjusting its overall policy or applying pressure on Hungary? Russia's reaction. Will Russia use Hungary as a foothold or model to maintain its energy ties in Europe? Impact on Ukraine war. Will this signal to Russia that sanctions pressure is fragmenting? How might that affect diplomatic and military dynamics? Media and public perception.
How will this be portrayed domestically in Hungary, the US, and across Europe? Thanks for watching. What do you think about this move? Is the exemption a pragmatic step or a troubling precedent? Drop your thoughts in the comments.